There's been a few questions about teens and sport and athletes. And obviously, when there is a lot of exercise, it can absolutely take the hormones offline or impact ovulation. It's about finding a happy medium, I think. If you're finding that your teenager is competing in high-level sport and they don't have a period, you have to look at making sure that a lot of the other things are dialed in: nutrition, sleep, stress levels, that we've spoken about all of these things. Even any trauma that there might have been from younger years, that also needs to probably be addressed. The sooner we can address things like that, the better. And I'm not talking about talk therapy either, by the way. I mean, my favourite is psychotherapy. We've talked about that before on the podcast, and I'm keen to keep talking about it because I actually think it's one of the best things that we can do in terms of changing our beliefs and really helping us to process trauma or past thoughts, feelings and beliefs about ourselves that are holding us back or keeping us sick. I think that, really looking at if their hormones are being taken offline, what do we need to do? Do we need to eat more? Do we need to put more fat and protein in the diet? Hormones are made of fat and protein. So if you are finding that that's an issue, making sure that we are increasing fat and protein. So just addressing that, I think, and being aware of that and seeing also what happens on a downtime, like off-season, school holidays, does a period come back? Then you can definitely know that that's part of the challenge, and then scaffolding around that with those other lifestyle factors that we've spoken about. Periods, heavy, irregular, isn't normal. What can help that isn't medication, and when to reach out for help? Doctor suggests going on the pill for a few months to correct. Fortunately, the pill doesn't do that. If there is already heavier, irregular periods, it's a sure sign that there's some other challenges. Well, the pill just flatlines hormones, right? So your body withdraws from the hormones, you bleed, and then you go back on it again. But what it's doing is it's disrupting this maturation of hormones. There is evidence to suggest that the later a teenager starts on birth control, the less problematic it is to their long-term hormone health. And that would be after the age of 21 because access and the maturation that I spoke about being developed. So I would suggest that we look at, okay, well, why is the period heavy? Normally the period would be heavy when we have too much estrogen in the body or the body isn't detoxifying estrogen properly. The liver detoxification is compromised. So I would be looking at that. You should absolutely be looking at the reasons why. Also, it doesn't say here that it's painful, but it is irregular. And that's the other tricky thing. An irregular period is very annoying because you don't know when it's going to happen, and it can be appealing to want to suppress it with birth control, but it doesn't actually solve the problem long term. So hormonal acne is another big one. How do we know that the hormones are the reason that we're seeing acne? Two reasons, actually. You tend to see it along the jaw or the neck, and it's cyclic. So it's worse usually at ovulation or the period time, and then it kind of comes down, then it comes back. That's how we know it's hormonal. But you can have acne in other places and it worsen at those times as well. Make sure your teenager's going to the toilet every day because that's how we get rid of toxins. That's how we eliminate excess hormones. And if we're not moving them out of the bowel, we're reabsorbing them and they're becoming a problem. So bowels are the first thing. Using a good probiotic can be very important. The gut and the skin are one and the same. So if the gut's compromised, the skin will be compromised. Be mindful of what you're using topically. Remember, we wanted to strip our skin. The products that we used as teenagers, horrendous if you think about it. When you strip the skin, you're going to make more oil to make up for the fact that's just what your skin's going to do. So you're going to end up making it worse. So using appropriate products for teen skin, they definitely don't need the level of products that we need, but they do need to keep their skin clean. Obviously, a lot of them are loving using the makeup, so making sure we're washing that off. Can't tell you how many kids don't wash their face. I would start with those things. This question says acne for teen girls when you've tried all the nutritional supplements and interventions and not much improvement, and perhaps how to navigate teen bitch mode. We've talked a little bit about the teen bitch mode. Teens are not great at taking supplements, let's be honest. I think this is where we have to really educate and really bring in this nutrition piece. Again, it's about what you're putting in front of them. It's about what you're cooking. They're going to make decisions. They're going to buy Mars bars. But to that point, and this is what I wanted to revisit before, Olivia went through a phase where she was having quite terrible periods. And I said to her, you realise you're probably eating too much sugar. And I discovered that she was on her way home from school. She was getting a Mars bar on the way home from school. Often. We don't even eat Mars bars in this household. So where she discovered that, I mean, don't get me wrong. Look, it's like a whole lot of gooey goodness, but we don't eat them. I said to her, okay, so that's a lot of sugar. And it's really is a sometimes food, like not an everyday food, that's for sure. And if you start to eat it every day, you're going to start to notice that your skin's breaking out. You probably notice your periods might change and they're going to be painful. So anyway, I never forget we were talking to somebody and they were asking me questions about their teenagers' period pain. And Olivia said, she was like, this is a few years ago now. She said, oh, you should tell her not to eat Mars bars because they'll make you have period pain. I was like, it's not the Mars bar. It's the ingredients in the Mars bar, the sugar, processed ingredients, the genetically modified ingredients. There's probably all sorts of things in there that are doing, not probably, there are all sorts of things in there that are not doing any favors. Really being mindful and educating them, being able to connect. This month you've indulged in these things and your period has been worse or your skin has been worse. We need to help them draw the correlation so that they can actually feel like, okay, maybe mum's right, maybe she's wrong. And just experiment. I would say, okay, next month, let's just not have, I know it's a big ask, but let's not have any and just see what happens. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And of course I wasn't wrong. Got a lot of questions about moods. I think one of the best things that we can do is it is a stressful time and stress will absolutely take away from feel-good hormones and especially also can have an impact on progesterone as well. And we definitely see things like PMS and mood swings. I think the nice thing is once your teenager gets their cycle, you can predict the more moody phases, usually in the lead up to the period. Whereas pre-teen or pre-puberty, the moods are all over the place. There's no rhyme or reason to it. You don't even know what you're going to get on any given day because their hormones are all over the place. Whereas now we're starting to establish patterns and that works in your favor. Magnesium, I would say, is a very useful thing and it will also help with high stress. It'll help with sleep. It'll help with period pain. Magnesium as a supplement can be also very useful as well. Girls who are struggling with hormone fluctuations and heavy periods, also healthy eating. I can't monitor everything my teen eats. I just have to get at least one meal a day into them that's healthy. Great observation, 1 meal a day. That's our job because we're not necessarily around for the other things that they're eating. But I also often will say to my kids in the morning as they leave, bye, I love you, make good choices. Just plant that little seed. Hopefully they're in the canteen line and they're like, make good choices. But we can only do, we've already sort of touched on this, we can only do our best. Like I really do think we can only do our best and we can't control all of it and controlling all of it is not teaching them either, but connecting their symptoms with their lifestyle is going to be the thing I think that helps a lot more. A lot of you, actually, I will just say this before we wrap, a lot of you asked me about how they can learn before they start going through the teen years. And I love this. And I know we touched on this. I just want to say, I love how many of you were saying, my daughter's 4, my daughter's 7, my daughter's 9. I just want all the information I can to really start to pave a way so that we don't have to, or she doesn't have to experience what I went through. And you're right. You can do different things so that your children's path doesn't necessarily look like yours. Genetically, they're likely predisposed to whatever presentations you have. Endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS. If you have one of these diagnosed, then this is even more of a reason to make sure that you're educating, make sure that you're doing the right thing. And it might be also useful to take your teenager at the time off to see somebody who can help speak reason as well. I speak to teens all the time with mothers and I just help them to understand because mum has PCOS, these are the things we want to do to scaffold so that we can make sure that we do as much as we can so that that doesn't present for you. For those of you who that speaks to, this is where I think it can be really good to sit with someone. You only need one appointment. They can, in our clinic, we'd map that all out for you and give you a plan so that you knew the things to do. But you are more of an influence than you realize. You have more control than you think without being controlling. It's all in the energy that you put out there for your children. It's all in the way that you show up. Don't get me wrong, guys. I don't have all the answers here. I can just tell you what's been working so far. Olivia turns 17 and I feel like, we're really in it. We're really in it.